The clock is starting to tick down to the Royal Rumble with more title and #1 contenders qualifying matches next. We can't have a new world champion every week, but they sure can try, so let's get right onto it and start the 10 count with topic number 1, all for one, because you have to love when matches have stakes. And what could have been just a filler episode of SmackDown following the prior week's huge title change, all of a sudden was a big night full of important matches, so we start with the 4 #1 contenders qualifying matches, and admittedly, you have to admit that they got better over time, as no one was expecting The Miz to beat Randy Orton, especially in Orton's first match back. But they did all they could, I suppose, with Miz hitting a skull-crushing finale before the match even started, as Orton was watching McIntyre and Fatu outside the ring. And that was enough to weaken Orton to have Miz hit another finale during the match. But yeah, no issues here for Randy. He not only gave the crowd what they wanted with an extra slide slam on the announce table, but won it with an RKO out of nowhere, and that will never get old. Second was Trick Williams versus Matt Cardona, and another one that seemed awfully obvious, with Trick getting his chance to interact with some of the top guys in his first few weeks, but with both men's just second official matches as part of the SmackDown roster, and despite Cardona saying he's going after that WWE title, it certainly seemed like quite a stretch for Cardona to get there. And these guys put on a solid match, but I am just a little puzzled by Cardona hitting a zigzag and also attempting a pedigree, because that was like, hey Triple H, can you bring back Dolph Ziggler already? Anyways, nice clean win for Williams with the trick shot and bonus points for dropping that knee pad. I also really like the shenanigans that we got in the Damian Priest versus Solo Sikoa match. You had to know that Priest was going to win, with the MFT truly being focused on the Wyatt Six right now. But with the mysterious absence of Eric Rowan tonight, you really had to admit they played this quite well to get all the pieces to fit, with Tonga getting ejected and then evening it up again later by hitting a big kick on Uncle Howdy so that Sikoa could get that lantern back. And it was another awesome match to end the night between Sami Zayn and Ilya Dragunov. I am surprised they went back to the well so quickly after their US title match, but it didn't disappoint. It was especially physical, as you would expect. It did raise an eyebrow when Dragunov was bloodied near the end of the match, but I did most enjoy Dragunov getting out of the way when Zayn followed up the clothesline in the corner when he went for that surprise haluva kick, and I can't remember anyone having the ring awareness to miss that move in the past. So, good follow-up with the Torpedo Moscow on the apron, but Zayn, of course, got the job done so that he could win to get a big match in Montreal. Topic number 2, not so Belfast, as the main event on Raw was CM Punk defending the title for the second time in 3 weeks against Finn Balor. And wouldn't it have been something had the title changed hands here too, but it was not meant to be, as Punk retained following his second GTS of the match. It was a really strong showing here, but there's only so much you can do when the roles are essentially reversed from what they are supposed to be. Balor getting the hometown cheers despite Belfast not being in his home country, but I guess it was still only 2.5 hours away, so close enough. The best part here was Balor's near fall at the very end to get you to think that he could get a title change following a sling blade, 2 corner drop kicks, and the coup de grace, but Punk found a way to kick out of that. It was also pretty humorous at the boos that Punk got earlier when he caused Balor to go over the announce table from his suicide dive. So Punk will seemingly have a pretty easy Rumble season here, since there's no reason to expect he'll need to have any matches until after it. But seemingly more interesting is what's up with Balor and the rest of the Judgment Day, as Balor came out to his old music and the Belfast crowd was so loud that he missed his mark. But with some recent chatter about a Balor face turn, was this a test to see what it could be, or was this a one-off for him just being at home? And I have a hard time seeing it as anything but the latter, and that has nothing to do with Balor himself, but everything to do with the Judgment Day. You simply have to think this is all about Liv and Dom, and the fans just so badly want to cheer those two, and it doesn't matter how much devious they show, they still are going to cheer them. So, in the end, I think Raquel's probably going to lose, and then Roxanne just might cost Liv their tag team titles, so I think everyone might be cranky following Saturday night and into Monday. But I guess we'll just have to see, but yeah, sorry Finn, I think you're gonna be a bad guy. Topic number 3, the face that leaves the place. But perhaps the biggest news is AJ Styles putting his career on the line to get his rematch against Gunther at the Royal Rumble. And first, thank you Belfast for immediately chanting "You tapped out" to Gunther like I said last week, but this was a masterclass of setting up a match with the ultimate stakes. Gunther declared for the Rumble before Styles came out, so I assume he is still going to be in the match, which does make it a lot easier for someone to eliminate him. And I loved how many times Gunther told Styles no here, and equally loved how much Styles and the crowd kept needling him. But Gunther proved to be the man with the plan, forcing Styles into the ultimate stipulation. And also great work to play that out in a few backstage segments, but I mean, we're possibly in some issues here. We're still processing the end of the Cena era, and it would be really hard to believe that Styles could be retiring just 1.5 months later. Topic number 4, no time to break, because elsewhere beyond the mat on SmackDown, there were lots of interesting moving pieces now with Cody Rhodes dropping the title. And while it would be great to see a big McIntyre versus Orton title match, since Orton was the first man to step up to McIntyre at the top of SmackDown, it sure seems like this is really just angling for a triple threat match between McIntyre, Rhodes, and Fatu. And as the latter was the one who struck first on SmackDown, going right after the new champ, and them fighting through the crowd. But later, Cody Rhodes was seemingly just repeating what the fans have been thinking, with his title reign becoming a bit episodic and that he's gotten too comfortable and predictable. So of course, he declared for the Rumble and called out Fatu, saying that he has the biggest receipt coming for him. Of course, Fatu had to take his turn, wiping out Kit Wilson as collateral damage, before demanding Rhodes to come to the ring. So we did get a nice little brawl there, but a slew of officials broke things up as we went to break. But we quickly got a match set for Saturday night's main event, so it seems like this will only be the start of things. Topic number 5, filling up the slate, because back in the ring we had Sami Zayn versus Ilya Dragunov not being the only awesome match, but before that, Carmelo Hayes fought Britain's own Leon Slater when he answered the US Open title challenge. These two put on quite a show, even with Hayes hampered by his knee throughout the match. Now, was this just a continuation of the storyline injury with Nakamura from last week, or was this a real tweak that hampered him throughout? I tend to think it is just storyline, and if so, man, he did a great job of selling it, including talking to the ref a few times about it throughout. And clearly, Slater is headed for WWE as soon as his TNA contract is up, and he cannot be denied with his overwhelming athleticism. And on this particular night, he led with his springboard Spanish fly, a draping scissor kick, and even his missed attempt at the Swanton 450. But it was that last move that led to a first 48, and that's Hayes pulling out a reversal into a twisting cutter in midair to get the pin as a superb surprise. So it is great that we can rely on the open challenges every week. So the winner of the week is Becky Lynch, because she remains the women's IC champion and can finally move on from that Maxine Dupree. So great for her to have her ring awareness that's so off the charts that she got her foot on the bottom rope after taking a turnbuckle to the head and following up with a manhandle slam to win. But seriously, Natalya being there and wanting to accompany Maxine to the ring was probably the most obvious turn we've seen in a long time. Still, it was great to see, as hopefully they will unlock that low-key legend and actually give Natalya a real run here, and beating Maxine to a pulp would be a really great start. But for Maxine's part, I suppose this was one of her better efforts, and she actually made contact on that step-up knee drop this time, but the pump kick at the beginning actually looked more like a pump knee, and then the spinning heel kick at the end, well, still pretty cringe. Oh well, it was a nice experiment, but it's back to the big time as we've got to start loading Becky and AJ. And our loser of the week is Javon Evans, as the injury bug continues to go around, and that cost Evans to lose for the first time as a main roster member in just a second match, taking a loss to El Grande Americano. The match was off to a fun start, with Evans showing all that bounciness that he has, including him leaping off of the steps to avoid a flying Bravo. Unfortunately, there's not much more we can say about this one, other than let's hope this is a very short-term issue. And it seems that early reports say as much, as even though Evans appeared to be holding his arm and shoulder region as he was down at ringside and as he walked away, it was quickly said that they were more concerned about a possible concussion. But even so, when I was checking the official Raw results on WWE.com, they stated that it was a leg injury. So I guess we're just going to have to wait until Raw to find out more. But the fact that it seems like it could be anything is probably a good sign, because it's nothing that's so obvious here that it seems like it would be a serious injury. It really would be a shame if he were forced to miss his first Royal Rumble due to the injury, so let's hope he gets back quickly. Well, it looks like I actually beat the 10 count this week, and that is perfectly great, as those Royal Rumble declarations are starting to pour in. So I can really start to taste the feeling of the best event of the year. And if you are starting to taste it too, be sure to go right on over here and check out my 2 best videos of the year, where I booked both the men's and the women's Royal Rumble matches from 1 to 30 with every elimination until we got our 2 winners. So until next time, I am the SportsZu, and this has been Stop the 10 Count.